Hi, everybody, it's Weird Wink Wilkinson laughing and scratching at you. How's everybody doing today? I got a little bit of a stiff neck. Let me just fix this up. Oh, that feels a lot better. Well, I got a great show for you today with some wonderful weird stuff. I feel so very weird.
There are some things in this world that go way beyond human understanding. Things that cannot be explained, things that most people don't want to know about. That is where we come in.
No human being would stack books like this.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum.
Well, it looks like you're the one who needs to be taught a lesson, pal. Class is paying 101. The instructor's Casey Jones.
Look, I don't want to fight you.
Well, tough rocks, pal.
Do you want some coffee, Mr. Tully?
Do I?
Yes, have some.
Yes, have some.
Cup of coffee in the big time, yeah. Cup of coffee in the big time.
Hey, what do you say we both be independent together, huh?
I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
We have the tools, we have the talent.
It's Miller time.
Luminous being so we, not this fruit batcher.
Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Hey, these aren't my rules. Come to think of it, I don't have any rules.
Well, that's great. Either I have a monster in my kitchen or I'm completely crazy.
I don't think you're crazy.
You know something? Maybe I am insane. Maybe I am insane.
Pizza dude's got 30 seconds.
Rise to the top, oh yeah.
That's the nicest thing a dog can say about anybody.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Enough, I get the point.
You know what you need? You need a Brazilian plastic surgeon.
I've got one that can see.
Sometimes happens, someone has to deal with it, and who are you going to call?
It's showtime.
All right, welcome everybody to Comic Book Radio, episode 274. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti, and tonight I'm talking about printing comics. And I'm not talking about sending my comics off to the printer. I'm talking about printing my own comics, talking about doing this in-house. But I will be talking a little bit about sending your comics to the printer, because that's where this all started. And I'm curious to hear from you guys based on your experiences, whether you're a creator and you've worked with the printer, or whether you're a reader and you've noticed sometimes like horrendous misprints and printing errors and things that shouldn't be, and you know, you're just wondering, how did this happen? Why does the book look like this? Is it supposed to look like this? Because chances are, if you guys noticed it, the people like me that you send your book to print, you've probably noticed it and wept. So I'll be talking tonight about what I'm doing and what I'm going to be launching in about a week or so. I'd say I'm probably like 2 days away worth of research and tests. I still have a couple more tests to do, and then I'm going to be making like an ash can book, and I'll explain what that is. I'll be making it as close to as finished as I possibly can based on what I have. I don't have the stuff that is necessary to make it look the way I want it to look, but it's going to it's going to be as close to as good as possible for a one-off, just to show everyone like proof of concept. I already kind of have a little proof of concept tonight to show you guys. I got a couple different test printouts and whatnot, and I'll talk about why I'm going down this path. Why now? Why not years ago? Why, you know, what was the impetus to make me go down this road at this point in time? And how actually feasible is it? Because I'm taking into consideration the time and the labor and the costs of all this kind of stuff. And I'll discuss that. And this will be as comprehensive as I can get for now. Like I said, I still got some more research to do, but I felt like, you know, tomorrow's open mic Wednesday. Thursday, I've got a guest on the show. I got Clayton Barton on the show. And maybe Friday, I can do kind of a, you know, swing back to this topic, and we have an open line show about it and get you guys to come in. And if you have questions or comments, you want to talk to me about it, you could do that. And yeah, so tonight I figured, like, well, why not? Let's do it. I got stuff to show. You know, I've showed some of it before on the Alterna art auction that we just had on Sunday. But for those that maybe weren't there, those that maybe missed it, whatever it might be, this is going to be the episode to see if you're curious about what I'm doing, what's to come, all of that. All right, so let's say hello to you guys before I get started. Cole King, what's up? Says, man, I have some reading and writing to do tonight, but no way am I missing this stream. Well, thank you, Cole. Appreciate that. Bretsky's here, says, salute to the incoming chat. What's up, Bretsky? Hello, Wayne. Hope you're doing good. We got Irene here, too. What's up, Irene? Apex Comics is here. How's it going, Apex? Cole, what's up? Cole says, I actually have plenty of bubblegum, but I'm still ready to kick some ass. Tippy Tail, what's up, Tippy Tail? Good to see you. Shrek in the house, too. How's it going, Shrek? Good to see you tonight. Beampad is here. How's it going, Beampad? Let's see. Apex says, I got 1,000 black and white comics printed from a friend in Washington State in 2001 for $400. I did my own film stripping at Pre-Press. Man, 2001. $400. Yeah, you know, that's some good prices, and that's from that time period. So totally. Before I started down this road of, you know, getting comics printed by print on demand, then commercial printers, all that kind of stuff, I did stuff at home. I put ash cans together. I even made like a little catalog at one point in time in like the first year of Alterna. Just, you know, I'm a degreed graphic designer, and I just kind of put some stuff together and sent it out to comic shops. You know, did like, I think it was like a 4 or a 6 page catalog, and then, you know, you put the 2 pages together, all the sides that are there, and it's not just 4 or 6 pages anymore, but 4 or 6 pages folded. So, you know, and then staple them and then sent them out. And so I'm used to doing this kind of stuff. I was thinking the other day, I didn't work at like 2 or 3 print shops and a sign shop and a copies. I worked at like 5 or 6. It was years ago, though. It was years ago, all throughout college and a little bit after. I worked at a bunch of different print shops in the area. This was back when I lived in New York. A bunch of different print shops in the area, a couple sign shops, did web design, all kinds of stuff. And all this stuff is just, it's like riding a bike. It's coming back and in a big way. And it's kind of weird. It's doing like a full circle sort of thing for me. You know, left that part of the industry, completely went down the road of making comics and sending files away to get printed. And now it's like I'm coming back kind of out of necessity because costs are rising, quality's going down, wait times are going up, customer service is going down, you know, and it's not everybody, but it's a lot of places. And technology is going up to the point that it's more feasible now than ever before to actually do this and not have to spend, like, if you're going to do it in a print house, you're usually going to spend between like $75,000 to $100,000 between everything that you need. If you look up the equipment costs, you're talking about like a stack cutter, a folding machine, maybe an inline saddle stitch booklet making machine, maybe another kind of printer that you want to have handle either the black and white or the cover or whatever it might be. You're talking about a lot of equipment that costs a lot of money. So that's not what I'm going to be doing, though. I'm going to be kind of doing it in a way that incorporates what I need to be done at the volume I need it to be done. Printing turnaround time for what I usually send to the printer anyway is going to be around the same time or less. In some cases, sometimes it might be less, because sometimes it'll take like 2 to 3 months to get from when I send the files to when I get a book back. And it would be less than that. So is it more work on my end? Is it more time? In a way, yes. But it's worth it. It's worth it because when I send books to print, I usually get damages between 10% on the damages is like, you're lucky. You know, if you go to print with 1,000 books and 100 of them are kind of not perfect, that's pretty good. Now it hurts when, like me, if you send like around a 5,000 or 6,000 and you get 500 or 600, that kind of hurts. You know, but we sell dinged and dented. We sell the reader copies, you know, we discount them and stuff. But I'd rather have books that are in great shape completely with just a couple of damages, you know, maybe 2 to 4%, which should really be acceptable. But in my years of printing, which is around 20 years in the comics industry, it's about 10%. If you're lucky, it's less than that. And I mean with single issues. With graphic novels, I found it's less. You're going to get hopefully less damages. But in recent print runs, like on the print run for King Cryptid 5 to 9, here's issue 9 of that. 25% damages. That's devastating. I'm talking like about 1,500 copies across the board of what I got printed that I cannot consider to be in great shape. And some of them were in pretty bad shape. Like curled up, folded corners, really dented corners, just completely just a mess from various things that the printer does when they pack them and how they pack them. And even though I've had this talk with them many times and they've done their best to accommodate me, I've had this problem with 5 or 6 different printers at this point, where it's like one problem gets solved and another one comes up. And I'm like, how is that a problem now? That hasn't been a problem. Why is there now a new problem? And then you got to course correct. You got to see, like, can you get a credit for a next run? Can you get a refund on this one? What is it? How is it going to get solved? Reprints aren't really going to work because then they don't ship it through freight and they ship it then UPS and they just send you a heavy box of books via UPS that usually gets destroyed. They've done that with me before. They damaged like 400 books over 2 different print runs that were done at the same time, because I'll put a bunch of books to print at the same time. And they sent the books that were damaged initially. They sent the extras they had, which kind of drives me nuts when printers do this. Commercial printers do this a lot because they'll print overruns and then they'll just keep them. Especially when you go to WebPress, they could have upwards of 1,000 to 2,000 copies of your book just sitting in their warehouse. Why don't you just send that to me? They're gonna just junk them eventually. Anyway. So they'll send me the books to make up for the damages. And what happens is that they send it with UPS or FedEx or whoever. They don't send it by freight, which is on a pallet, and then you get it and all of that stuff. You know, it's wrapped around, it's more secure, it stays flat the whole time in the box. Something has to basically crush it for it to get destroyed. If they send like a 50-pound box or whatever to you with UPS, chances are that thing's gonna get destroyed because they pack it and the books are to the corner of the box. There's like almost no packing material. And on all those copies they sent me, they were destroyed. to make up for the previously destroyed copies. So now I have, not 400 copies destroyed. I have now 800 copies destroyed. It's a fiasco. It becomes a fiasco real quick. And that's in addition to the normal problems that occur. Now, before I dive into what had happened that put this in motion for what's occurring right now, I'm going to take a look at the chat real quick, make sure that there's no questions that I can answer right off the bat. Let's see. Tippy Tail says, are you doing all the printing, packaging, and shipping by yourself, or do you have help? I'll have help when I need it, Tyler Wentland's about a half hour away. I'm sure he'd love to come over and put some papers in the folding machine. But largely, it's like, and you have to obviously make sure that everything is printing correctly. But it's largely going to be done by the printer. The most that I would really have to do would be, when it comes to the printing, putting the paper through, making sure the paper's there, and then filling the ink. And if there's an issue that I got to take care of, if like a maintenance box needs to be cleaned, if I need to do anything like that, that's easy. That's not tough. And then once the pages are done and completely done, then it's about folding them, put them through the folding machine. The folding machine folds them, and that takes very fast. It's like an $800 machine is what I'm going to be looking into getting, provided that it's going to be $15K on the crowdfunding for the printing setup, so I can get all the machinery I need. I can get 2 top-of-the-line printers, enough ink for a year, enough paper for a year. So yeah, it's gonna be a good setup, but I need all the proper machinery. I've got the space for it. I'm tooling things around right now. I would show you if I could, but it's a little bit too out of the sorts. But when it's all here, I'll show you guys. And so it'd be $15K to get everything up and running. I'll be pre-selling like vouchers where people can purchase, and they'll get a code that they can then use that code to use that money towards a print run. And I'll be doing print runs of 200 or less. I'm getting the numbers set up. I'm very close to getting the numbers finalized and set up for what a print run's going to cost people if they do like 25 or 50 or 100 or 200. But yeah, in terms of just putting the book, assembling the book, putting that together, maybe between everything, once the pages are folded, then you just put them in the right order, which is not hard at all. And then you got the covers. You put that over it, staple it, trim a bunch of books all at once with like an industrial paper cutter, which is like a stack cutter. You can cut hundreds of pieces of paper at a time. And then that's it. You got books. And it's literally everything that is done at a commercial press. But they have big, giant machines to do this. Really expensive, big, giant machines. And they'll do it more than and faster. I can't compete with that. But for what I'm doing and for what I need to do, and the costs look pretty great, it could be done. It could be done. And it's not difficult. I used to do this all the time. Like I said, when I worked at different print shops and whatnot, we'd have 1,000 books that got to be put together. Our printers were a little faster at the time. Although I don't know if they're faster 20 years ago. They might have been around the same speed as what I'm going to be currently getting now. So things have caught up. 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, would not have been a possibility. If I've been going through distribution and I get like 20,000 copies printed, doesn't make sense to print it at home. If you've got a crowdfunder and you're printing anything more than like even 2,000 copies that you got to get fulfilled, doesn't make sense to print at home. Go to a commercial printer. 2,000 is a sweet spot for just about every commercial printer. 1,000, it's pretty good. But if you go less than 1,000, if you get into the 500 range, you're not going to see too much savings. You're probably going to look at a print-on-demand digital printer at that point, and you're going to notice it's going to cost a lot per copy. Now, if you're printing, let's say in some cases with Alterna, I'd like to have 50 more copies of something because we sold out. And I think 50 is a sweet spot for demand without having to take on a pile of books. I can't do that with a commercial printer. So I'd have to go with a digital press printer And most of them, the price is through the roof. The quality is not there. And I'll detail my experience of what I just dealt with King Cryptid number 2. I had to go back to print, which was the result of the commercial press printer making a mistake that cost me 400 copies that I should have right now, and I don't. So everything comes back to the printer causing a situation that eventually has gone awry. Dr. Mask, what's up, Dr. Mask? Hope you're doing good. Thank you for joining and becoming a member or staying a member for the past 9 months. I appreciate that. What's up, Ben? Hope you're doing well. We got Radio Stories now here. How's it going? Oblation Comics, how's it going? Dale, what's up? Says that's really bad with the damage. Yep, yes it is. Battle damage books, indeed. Except there was no battle. They're just damaged before the battle. The battle is like, shipping them out, and then you guys get them and you read them, and it's 20 years later, and you loved them to death. Read them 20 times or something. Here, there was no battle. It's just they're destroyed before I even get them, let alone before you guys even get them. All right. So here we go. This is what happened, right? And don't worry about like, oh no, poor Pete, he's got to do work or whatever. Don't worry about that. I don't want to hear that from anybody. Nobody feel bad about me because I got to do work. I am loving the fact that I have to do work. I am loving the fact that I will do work for others to get their books done. That sustains me. I'll do that for 12, 14 hours a day. That's, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to take on too much that I'm going to get myself sick or anything like that. All right. So initially, this is what happened with the commercial printer. You see this? This is a black and white book. This is King Cryptid number 2. And the commercial printer, the red, the magenta, exploded onto this. And a bunch of different pages, because of the way the signatures line up. When you do pagination, you have one sheet of paper per book, right? So, like when I show you this, I'll show you this one instead. So you got the one sheet of paper per book. You guys can see it's like the cover, and it prints both sides. And every page is like that. So every page, every sheet of paper, you have 4 pages that are getting printed up. So when something like this happens, the correlating pages also get damaged, right? So they did this. This happened to 400 books. And there was a bunch of books that I had to replace for backers too. Let alone pull them off and comb through an entire print run of 2,000 books. You can imagine that kind of takes time. So 400 books, bye-bye, right? So because of that, I still have copies of King Cryptid 1, 2, 3, and 4. We printed more of number 1. I always print more of number 1. But we don't have any more of 2 now, except for this print on demand run I did. Small batch of like 100. But we have some of 3, we have some of 4 left, right? Okay, so I go back to print with number 2. Now number 2, I sent to the digital printer. All right, sent to the digital printer. And I get it back and, it does the digital thing. They always look like this for the most part. Some printers know what they're doing, or they take the time to make sure each page gets folded first before they put them together and then staple it and bind it, right? Other printers don't. They kind of send it through, then they staple them and they get all folded together, and that's kind of how it goes. Some of them have machinery that they can do the whole booklet making process within one step, and during that step of it, it does it correctly, and out it comes kind of flat. This particular printer did not have that machinery, that capability, and they didn't take the extra step manually, nor was it offered. So it comes through like this. This isn't even the worst part. There's text within the book. I don't even know if it would... don't even know if it would pick up on camera. So when you send text files, you want to make sure they're embedded so they print crisp. Let me see if I can get that. Will that even focus? I don't know. It's going to be obnoxious. I'll just tell you this. Okay, so the cover is printed, the text printed crisp, printed great, right? Now I open it up and the interior text did not. Like I said, it's going to be obnoxious if I try to show you. It doesn't look like it's going to focus on it. That's only the result of what happens when the printer resaves your file, putting it all together. It's the only time I've ever experienced that with any printer ever. Otherwise, if they print the files as you give them when you embed everything, now unless there's a glaring issue with it, and they sent me a proof, and the proof was fine. It was a digital proof, mind you, wasn't a printed proof. But the digital proof, the text was still coming across great. So I saw that the text didn't print that great. Now, it's nitpicky of me because most people probably would say, oh, it looks fine to me, because it's not horrible. It's not really like pixelated and bad. It's just not as crisp as it should be based on the files I sent. So that was, for me, strike number 2. Strike number 3 was this weird... They send this thing. They're like, oh, get this thing and put it around the cover, and then, you take it off the cover, right? So they send this thing, they put it initially around the cover. And they're like, you got to send it as perforated, and then you got to zip it down and take it out, and that'll be easy. It'll be quick and simple, right? It's not quick and simple. So even if you do it right, I did this one purposefully wrong. Even if you do it right, what happens is that little pieces of paper get caught underneath the staples. And so unless you want little weird pieces of paper underneath the staples of your comic, you gotta really get it in there with those there, get a tweezer out and get the little paper out. It's a pain in the ass. I did that for like almost 100 books to get this easily removable piece of paper out. That's completely unnecessary. Then they also shipped it. The corners of the comics were up against the corners of the box. Thank God no damage occurred on that. But that's usually not going to be the case. One wrong move, that box drops, that's it. Boom. All the comics on that side, because they're flush with the corner, are going to be damaged. So that didn't put much trust in me with working with them further. But the thing with the files upset me. The thing with the bowing of it kind of upset me. But not enough to get really upset. I kind of knew some of this would happen. So I sent them an email. I got in touch with them, and I just let them know about the issues I had with it. And I get back that it's impossible to have a book flat. That's not how that happens at any digital printer. It's impossible for it to print with the text being crisp. That's just not what happens at a digital printer. And they didn't even acknowledge the problems with that tearaway, useless cover thing that they think is protecting the comics. It's not protecting the comics. As long as the comics are actually properly stacked, they're not gonna get destroyed. Like, we don't get that with our other printers. That's the only printer I've ever seen do that. So what happens is that I tell them back, I've worked with over a dozen digital printers and many other commercial printers. But let's focus on digital printers. They print crisp text. They don't touch my files. If it's embedded, it prints crisp. Otherwise, they did touch the file, and it has happened. I've printed trading cards, and there's been pixelation, and there's been stuff like that because they resized it to do what they think was better, even though they went against what I approved of and approved. But in this situation, they had said it's not supposed to do that at all. It's all supposed to be pixelated. I said, well, the cover's printed perfectly. There's no pixelation there. It's just the interiors. They said, well, it's the interior paper stock. The interior paper stock, and then that's why, because it's an uncoated stock, and that's why the text didn't print crisp. I said, well, I have a sample pack from you guys. And on your sample pack, you have the exact same paper stock that I chose, and you have text on it, and the text prints crisp. It prints fine. There's no pixelation, there's no jaggedness, there's no nothing like that. So it's not the paper stock. Then they said, well, it's the printer we used on the cover. We used a different printer for the cover than we used for the interior. I said, my inkjet at home, which is like a $50 printer that's 10 years old, won't print the text that way, unless it is that way, unless it's rasterized. You know, if the text is in a vector and then it's embedded as an outline into this is printer mumbo jumbo comic stuff. But if it's like that and it's in the file, it'll print it like that, unless I resave it and it loses that data. And they said, well, we didn't touch the file. I said, well, something happened because it didn't print correctly. So they said to Boeing, there's no way to get rid of that whatsoever. That's just a part of it. All the other stuff, that's just the way it is, right? There's a back and forth for like 2 or 3 days. I think 3 days, actually. So I went ahead and I took apart a comic. I took apart one of these. I took apart one of those. And then I flattened it. I didn't put this under weight. I didn't put this under pressure. I didn't do anything other than what was supposed to have been done the first time around, which was each page should have been folded. This is the same book. It's the same one, as you could see, right? It's the same book. Okay, second printing, right? I didn't do anything to it. Okay, what I did though, so I took it apart and I folded each page separately the way they're supposed to be. Now imagine if you took a bunch of pages. I'll take like these pages. All right, so these are some of my test prints on just like regular copy paper. So you take like these pages here and you fold them all together. And then you staple them. It's going to bow, right? But if each page was folded individually, and all you got to do is get a folding machine, fold it individually, and then you put the pages together the way they're supposed to be put together. Yeah, it takes a little extra time. A little extra time for quality, because quality takes time. You know, you put them all together, and then you're going to not get as big of a bow, or any bow. If I did this properly, you would see what I mean. And you're not going to get any bow like that. You're not going to get any kind of big spacing that comes along there and destroys it. And now that's 60-pound paper. That's not newsprint paper or anything like that that's inside of that second printing. Let me put all these together. I'm determined to put all these together for you guys so you can see what I mean. Okay. So you put them all together, and now it's a huge difference. Then that big bow of when you do like that, do it wrong. So that's how that was, right? Plus their staples are huge. Their staples are huge. The gauge on the staples is huge, and it's also a longer, bigger staple. Okay, so this is their staple compared to the one that I use. All right, that's going to matter. That's going to matter, and it's a lot thicker. It's not going to focus to show the thickness of it, because I don't think it could do that. Again, I don't want to be too obnoxious with it. I'm already obnoxious with it enough. But the staple gauge is almost twice the thickness, and about maybe I'd say 3 millimeters longer. All that stuff matters. All that stuff matters. So the point is that made me go, yeah, I'm 100% right. And I could do this to every single one, but I'm going to have to remove the staples out of them and restaple them. Doesn't do a great job of me selling the second printing, I tell you that. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to explain what's what and what I'm doing here with all of this. So it got me to thinking. Now, I got some extra posters and stuff lying around from alternative print runs, like this one here, the King Cryptid, the piece that Keir Covington did. It was like an 11 by 17 poster, and we gave those away on the last campaign. Not on this recent one, but on like the first King Cryptid campaign. And I had about like 30 left maybe, and they're just sitting there, and they're going to get given away one day or whatever. So I figured, this is really thick. This is thick paper. This is way thicker. It's probably close to like an 80 pound to 100 pound, probably closer to 100 pound gloss, I would say, gloss text. So I said, well, let me see if I could fold all these, because it'd be a real thick comic. And I did a 32 pager. So I did 8 sheets plus the cover, and then I stapled it. I have a saddle stitch stapler to do that properly. You can't really do that with a regular stapler. You got to get a saddle stitch stapler. You could do that. It's $30. You could get a saddle stitch stapler easily. I think boss stitch, whatever the heck. I can never figure out how to say that name. I think it's bow stitch. But you can get one from them. It's like $30 on Amazon or something. Any store really that would sell that type of stuff would have it. Probably have to order it online though. And I stapled it, right? And it's fine. This thing is fine. This is really thick. Now it's hard to... Okay, there it is. Okay, so this is like a cover stock book, because this is how thick this paper is. Still. When you do it right, when you do it wrong, that's the difference. Okay. So then I start thinking, well, I could still, because I used to fold it all the time, put them through the folding machine and do that, and then staple it when I worked at the print shops, and then we did the books, and the booklets came out nice. Some print shops, like I said, don't do it that way because it's an extra step, but it's quality, and quality matters, and you make the person happy and they come back because it's quality. So the time pays off. Whereas if you give a person a crap product and it doesn't look that good, then, and I've done that over where I felt like, oh, maybe I'll cut corners on here, or cut corners on there over the years, and I always regret it. So I figure, okay, let me see something. Will my printer at home, my $50 10-year-old printer at home, will that print on newsprint? Oh, and Spicer, thank you, man. Appreciate it. 5 comic book radio memberships, courtesy of Spicer. So I cut up one of the old newsprint books that we have that's pretty much going to recycling anyway, because I'm clearing out, making room for things. Put it through the printer, just like a little, I think it's like a 5x7. Yeah, 5x7 sheet of paper. This was one of the, and I printed on it. I printed the first page of King Cryptid number 5, and I shrunk it down to 5x7. This is where we used to list all the comic shops that used to carry us, right? I used to give a whole page in the back for all the comic shops that carried us when such things occurred. So let me see. You can kind of print, yeah, you can see like the text really prints nice. Look how small that text is too. And this is my crappy 10-year-old inkjet printer at home, okay? And it took the newsprint really good. Auction it? I guess it's got historical significance depending on where we go with this, but I don't know about that. So I was like, wow, it actually printed on it. That's crazy, because it's not supposed to. Not supposed to print on that, and there's no problems. It wasn't like there was a paper jam. It wasn't any, and I did it with a couple more sheets and of varying degrees, and it was really just on either draft or standard mode, right? And they all came out fine. So I actually got a pad of newsprint paper, unprinted on, just clean newsprint paper, very similar in the thickness of what we currently use. And I started doing test prints. So they came out pretty good. So I'm doing all these different test prints with, trying out to see, what looks good with the text and things like that. There's 400 DPI, there's 600, there's 1200, you know, and I'm finding that 300, which I've been told my entire life, especially someone who is a degreed graphic designer, 300 is good enough for print. Anything higher than that, no one notices it. Right? I noticed that the 600 looks fantastic. And what's really weird is I noticed that the 600 rasterized actually looks better than the 300 or 400 with vector embedded outline text. So that's kind of interesting. Like, this is the 600 with the rasterized text. Let me see, will it focus on that? It's unbelievable. As opposed to, like, you know, it looks fine. I'm very nitpicky. It all looks fine though, right? So I did that test, and then I did a bunch more tests, you know, so I got a whole lot of more different printings of them and whatnot. And again, I find that the 600 looks great. You know, so the 600 came out great. And this is just a black and white test. Let me get it closer. You know, the line art looks great. And again, this is my crappy inkjet printer at home. $50 inkjet printer. It's nothing to write home about. But it did the job for what I was testing out, just to see if the paper stock will actually be printed on and how it'll take. So then I printed out in draft mode because I wanted to save some ink at this point. I'll get to the front side first, actually. So the front side, I printed out a page in color. And this is a page out of King Cryptid number 5. This is newsprint. And then in draft mode on the other side, I printed out a page from number 7. That's why the lines are there, because it's in draft. This is just in standard. You know, there's like draft and standard and best, you know, like all this. And then there's little increments in between on my old 10-year-old printer. But not too bad. And it really doesn't show through, which I thought was also interesting. I also have these files set up to accommodate for like dot gain and things like that, printing on newsprint. So I'm not too surprised that they didn't print obnoxiously and that they printed actually pretty good. So then that brings me to thinking, well, maybe I'll put like a test book together. Now I don't have a wide format printer. This is a regular, you know, 8.5 by 11. I think it'll do 8.5 by 14 also, but it won't do 11 by 17. You need 11 by 17. You need ledger paper. 11 by 14 will be fine too, to accommodate the size of the sheet, because the sheet is going to print, you know, page 1 and then the last page, and then you would flip that over and print the pages that respond appropriately to how you're lining them all up. So I don't have something to print a full-size comic. I'm not going to be able to show that. But I do have an ash can size book. Now, I didn't print the cover. The cover is a poster, a Blood Moon poster. This is Keir Covington's art with Christian Rossi coloring. But I did trim it to size. This is about 5 by 8.5, maybe. And thank you, Wistmore, for becoming a member. Appreciate it. So, as you can see, I did staple it. It's been stapled. Can you see this? Yeah, it should be showing up. You know, one there, one there. And on the inside, I printed a little sampler. Now, this is all in draft mode, so some of them came out better than others. Again, I'm trying to kind of save some ink here because it's just a test. But when I print out the good one, it's going to be proper everything. This was a rush job. This whole thing to put together, I think it took me about maybe 5 minutes between the printer printing it and then me lining everything up, trimming it, stapling it, all of that. And this is a 24-page book. So, and it'll lay flat. Hold on, I keep fudging with it. So it'll lay flat. It won't do the big bowing in there. So, like there's the first page of Trespasser. And I wanted to see, like, what would all the alternative books look like? Again, this is like 5x8. What would all the alternative books look like if they were printed on newsprint at home? Not a cardstock cover. This is probably like 100-pound gloss text. It's a similar paper stock to what I use for the posters on all the alternative stuff. Might be a little less than 100-pound. It might be even 80-pound. But it feels a little thicker than 80-pound to me, comparing it with other 80-pound gloss text that I have. Again, draft mode. Okay. The whole thing was just me seeing, will this print? Some of them printed better than others. I wasn't paying attention for the quality here. I'll pay attention for the quality on the next one I make. But I'm still surprised that, like that print's pretty crazy. For like a real crappy draft mode 10-year-old printer. That's like not supposed to print on newsprint. It's like the first weird little ash can. Again, if this goes somewhere, I guess these are of historic value. But for now, they're just referential for me. I wanted to see how all of this stuff would print out, so I repeat a couple pages, but it was just to get the essence of, it's a book. You flip through it, it's all stapled, and it'll lay flat too when you open it and read it. And it won't start curling up on you. Like, paper is an organic material. No shit, right? It's from trees. It has a memory. It wants to spring back to the form it was in before, unless you give it a new form. So you have to make sure that you actually fold it correctly before you do that. Otherwise, it's going to always want to spring back to where it was before, when it was a nice flat sheet of paper. That's why what a friggin' nightmare. But on the one that I folded, so this is like the little test ash can, and like I said, I'm going to be printing one that I'm going to print like a mini issue. I'll probably do like a mini issue black and white. So I'll probably print like a mini issue of King Cryptid #2. And I'll do a mini issue of a King Cryptid in color or something. Maybe number 9. Get Kier's work on there. And I'll do that. And then I'll have that to show for the crowdfunder. Just to be like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm capable of doing, but I need a bigger printer and I need the proper setup to save time. I could do all this by hand. I could put it all together by hand. I have the stuff I need. I got a paper trimmer. It's not a stack cutter, so I can't do volume. But like you see, I could trim it to size. I could put it all together and staple it. I could print it. I could do that, but I could only do an ash can size, and it would be a pain in the ass and not feasible at all to actually do it in volume, to make like 50, 100, 200 copies, stuff like that. And in some cases, it might actually be more affordable. I'm talking to a printer right now where they're giving me a quote on covers for the Blood Realm books. So they would get all the covers together and they would do the folding and they would do the, trim it to the size I need, the full bleed size that I need, which is kind of close to 11 by 14. And then I would go and pick it up. It's a local printer. And then I would go pick it up. And then I would just print the interiors at home on newsprint and then put it all together. So I have a nice cover, that would not require the time or the paper or the ink. But on some books, I'm doing so much research, guys, on paper, on newsprint, on how paper is made, on how it's coated, on all the, and I already knew a bunch of it, but it's like a refresher course again. So if I were to do this crowdfunder, which I'm gonna, but if we reach the goal that I need to reach, I'm gonna be getting the printers I need, all the ink I need, all the equipment I need, the stack cutter. I mean, these things are like $270 to $300. The folding machine is like close to $800. And then also all the paper. The paper, I have to get several different kinds of paper to do a test before I commit and go in and buy large amounts of bulk. But the thing is, like, the test amounts to buy the paper, it's like 500 pages, 500 sheets of paper. But it's like, it's pretty cheap. It's newsprint. So it's like $20-$30 for 500 sheets, 11 by 17 or 12 by 18. And then get like the cover stocks and things like that, see what works. And I got to test out with the printer settings when I get the printer in, put the books together, calculate the time, calculate putting it all together. I'm thinking that based on everything that I've been researching, which I've been going like a madman researching this stuff, it's looking like between, for 100 to 200 copies, so 100 copies of like black and white is looking like around a ballpark figure, 225 to 250. 200 copies drops to like $1.80 to like $1.90 a copy, which if you're a creator and you've been following print on demand prices, you're looking around, you're gonna notice that that's about almost half the cost of any print on demand printer for 100 to 200 copies of black and white. Some of them can get very close. I think there's only one that I could think of that might be right around there on the price, but they don't do newsprint. So if newsprint matters to you, because that's pretty much all I'll be using is newsprint interiors. Probably two different thicknesses, two different gauges of paper, poundage, and then probably two different as well for the cover, but nothing crazier than that. I'm not going to do anything crazier than that. It's going to be that, and that's it. Maybe one day if this was to take off, I don't know, and then I get out of the house and actually establish like a warehouse space or an office space or whatever to get all the equipment, then it'd be one thing. But I'm not even thinking about that right now. I'm thinking about what do I need to do to do what we already do, the books we already make. It would be indistinguishable. And if anything, I'm looking at the stuff that I'm making. I like the paper better. I like the print better on the stuff that comes out great. Like, I really thought that the Red Koi page came out pretty great, but I really loved the way that the Blood Realm page came out. Like, that looks fantastic. If I zoom in real close, maybe it'll focus. It's fantastic. So it'll be very streamlined as far as that goes. But the thing is that I have to do experiments of sorts once I have all the proper equipment in. Color on 100 and color on 200. Color on 100 is like the high twos, like 275 to 280. And color on 200 is the low twos, like 225 to 240. The color pricing, from what I'm looking at, is insane. It's insane. So hopefully that helps people out. Again, I'm not going to turn into a full-fledged print-on-demand print shop person. To do that, to go that road, I'd have to literally shut down Alterna. I'd have to literally stop making art, king cryptid, everything. I would have to focus on just printing, and I'm not about to do that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take on jobs, maybe 1 or 2 a month, and print books for people, and print our own books, our own saddle stitch books. If it's a graphic novel, if it's a trade paperback, perfect bound, it'll go to I'll outsource the printer. If it's like the Hall of Fame books, I'm going to outsource that printer. If it's the remastered books, I'm already talking to a new printer, because I was going to do remastered books on more high quality stuff, paper stock, with that printer that did the second printing of King Cryptid #2. And I was like, no, I can't do that now. There's no way. I can't trust you at this point. Like, you just fed me a whole load of crap. I'm not going to take a really big, important print job, not just like 100 of a reprint. So luckily, I'm already talking to another printer. We're going to start getting going. They're going to start sending that stuff to print next week. So that's going to get taken care of. That wasn't as bad of an ordeal. I had a couple printers back up just in case, and I went with my next option. And they're going to have the books really nice. They already reassured me that the books will not do any of the things that just happened on the previous printer. So when it comes to all that kind of stuff, specialty cover, a coating on a cover, slightly a cardstock type cover, or when it makes sense to, when the quantity is there. And the biggest reason I say when the quantity is there is because on the newsprint printer before, they wanted from us like an overall run of at least 2,000 because they gang run them. And so even if I did 4 books, 500 copies a piece, they would still do the print run. And it would still not be so bad. The pricing wasn't so bad. But now they'll put the job through. But I'm not seeing, like the pricing has gone up so much. I'm not going to see anything that I used to see on the pricing that would make the books even come close to a price that I think that they should be priced at. I'd have to price the books at like $5.99 a piece for a newsprint book. With this, I'd probably have to price them at like $2.99. $3.50 tops, making them and bringing all the printing in-house. That's totally different than looking at it and going, well, I guess we either don't do newsprint anymore because I can't justify 2,000 copies per book. There's just no way. There's no way. Or bring it in-house and we can make it work. We can make that possible. So, and also then I don't have to deal with all the craziness of the printers. I don't have to deal with, the red exploding on losing 400 books, because even if the red exploded, right, I'd catch it. It's a pain in the ass to deal with, of course, but it's not like 400 books are also gone and whatever else. I'm already prepping for, there's going to be, a paper jam, or there's going to be this, or there's going to be that. There's always going to be something. That's just how it is. There's a lot that goes on with these books behind the scenes. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of creators, and they don't talk about it. They'll talk about it with me, probably because I talk about printing so much. But they'll talk about it with me in private because they don't want to talk about it publicly, about problems they're having on their books. But like almost every creator is going through something with printing. It's madness. So if I can at least figure out what to do and get things going for the first year of it, take on 20 to 30 jobs for other people, get the books that we need to get printed, get those made here too. I think that'd be great. And if I find I need help, like I said, Tyler Wentland, he's like a half hour from me. He can help me out. It wouldn't be too much that would need to be done. It'd be like paper trimming and putting sheets through the folding machine. It's not really glamorous, but it would be some help. It'd be an extra hand. My sister-in-law is like an hour away. She used to work at a print shop, so she could come and help. She's already kind of excited by the prospect of it. And of course, Erin can also help me every now and then, but she's got so much to do already. This is my crazy thing to do. But I'm not going to need a whole lot of help. The way I'm going to have it set up, I'm not going to need a whole lot of help. So if anyone's worried about whatever with me, or, how am I going to do it? Don't even think about it. Just think about getting some books and think about how great they're going to be and think about spreading the word. And so on the campaign, I'm going to have those vouchers. Someone purchases like $100 or $200, they're going to get a code that they could then redeem for printing. And then I'm going to have commission rewards. If someone wants like a commission from me, they can get a commission on there. I'm not going to have get a commission on there because I'm not going to have commissions pretty much the rest of the year. That's how that's going to be and how that's going to play out. And then I'm going to have maybe like a t-shirt and a sticker kind of a thing. I'm still trying to determine what to put on them. Maybe like, the best comics are on newsprint, or newsprint is back, or newsprint comics, or whatever. I'm thinking about the slogan at this point, but something along those lines. There's no print like newsprint. Something along those lines, as for like a T-shirt or a sticker kind of a thing for people who would like to support and pick something up. But I already have like 40 people who've sent me messages that are interested in getting print runs at some point in time. So people obviously are looking to get something like this going, and there's no one else that's going to be doing this kind of a thing. And once I nail out all the details of, what paper looks best, what settings look the best, sky's the limit as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with it, and like I said, I'm like 2 days or so away. I still got a couple things I got to research, and then when I do the test prints, I'll put all that together and it'll look great. Let's see, we got a bunch of questions in here, so I'm going to try to make sure I get to them as much as I possibly can. Chris 6, thank you for backing. We're saying that you'll back. Thank you for the $2 super chat. I appreciate it. It says, I'm back and I know you'll get it done, Pete. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Ink on paper, are you using a high capacity printer with liquid refill or cartridge? Oh, no, absolutely not a cartridge. No one should use a cartridge for this. It would be a tank printer. Yeah, I'm going to be using a Pro Pigment ink tank printer. It's like a heavy duty Epson printer. Things are like $1,000 a piece, and it's pigment ink, and it handles a real high workload and could take on 11x17. Let's see. Thank you, Tippy Tail, for becoming a member. Appreciate it. Let me see. I'm going to scroll all the way up here because there's probably a bunch of questions. So if you're going to look back and go, man, I asked that an hour ago. I'm seeing it now. Let's see. Wismore says regular books are experiencing a big squeeze in quality because of Ingram Spark buying up all the small print houses. Yeah, that's something. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's even a bottleneck occurring with printing right now. There's paper mills and different stocks. There's something even crazy. There's like I read that there's like one paper stock from a company, Pixel, that they had to recall the whole thing, although some of it might be too late, because the paper's radioactive. The paper is radioactive because of where it got in close proximity of an accident that had occurred that had involved some kind of waste that was radiated. And so there's paper out there that's radioactive. Crazy. If that paper bites me or gives me a paper cut, will I become like Paper Man? Let's see here. Kevin Thomas says Marvel's doing that now, except they call it Red Band Black and White Edition. Let's see. Apex says I only need 800 copies of Fembat printed, 200 of 4 different covers. Well, that sounds Apex. That sounds like that would be a job that's more suited to a digital press printer, because what they could do is they could print the guts. They could print the whole interior and then just do a variant on the whole thing, as opposed to what I'm doing. Like that's 800 copies. Like I'm just going to be doing 200 per job for other people. So if you have like one cover of that, I could take that on for you. I might be able to take that on for you too, but you'd have to, because 800 copies is a lot of copies. But maybe we could do it. We'll see. But I'm starting to think, you'd probably be better off, unless you can't find somebody, maybe. Or if you want it on newsprint. If you want it on newsprint, I guess, then maybe that would be the way. Look at me, I'm already saying no to people. I'm so bad and stupid. Warzord says, I'm not trying to start drama, but I am. Did you see the Eric July Bloodroot splash page cope? Do you think he should have had the books redone? I didn't see. I don't even know what the heck that is. What the hell's Bloodroot? I have no idea what that is. I don't know. I'm sorry. Rick Saylor, Reaper Destroyer had that problem, like 200 plus bang corners, bad shipping. It's really frustrating. It's really frustrating, and I can only imagine. I know Michael Bancroft had a big problem on like the first book he did. He had like a lot of issues on the printing. I've had a ton of issues on printing over the years with various printers. I've used a lot of printers, and even the really good ones, sometimes they'll throw something at you that you want to curl up into a ball in the corner, because you're just like, how on earth did we do this? The first time we put out newsprint books at Alterna, May 2017, I got 4 books in from the printer, and they had completely screwed up the cyan levels on the cover. They all printed way too bluish and way too dark because of it. And then they spent 2 weeks arguing with me that they didn't do anything to the cover, till I forced them to print the covers again. I said, just do a test print. You don't have to do a whole big print. Just print my file the way it is. And they did, and it came out fine. I said, so someone on that job screwed those covers up. And they all went out to Diamond, and they all went, they're technically misprints. Like the very first Alterna newsprint books that went through to comic shops are technically all misprints. It was Adam Wreck #1, Croak #1, Lilith Dark #1, and Amazing Age #1. And the interior's printed fine, but the cover is all printed off. Too much blue. I even showed them. I knew immediately as soon as I saw it. I said, "There's too much blue in this," And I showed them a digital file that I altered. I said, "Look what happens when I adjust and put 25% more blue cyan in the art. It's a dead ringer for what you guys did." That was madness. And right off the bat, I was like, man, should I even be doing this? Is this like an omen? I don't know, maybe it was. Dr. Mask says that paper is supposed to offer extra protection for the cover. Do you think it worked? No, I don't think it worked at all. That little extra, that's a nuisance. This thing is an absolute nuisance. Not necessary whatsoever. Not at all. Not one bit. Especially that way. The thing is what they're doing too, it's like they're putting an extra sheet of paper on the cover and doing the whole process to staple it when they put it together. Why not? If you're already going to do that and have like basically what amounts to just you putting an insert, just put a piece of paper, and then you can save on some ink or toner or whatever you did with this. It's most likely a laser printer. And you could just save on, you don't need to do anything like the instructions and all the other nonsense and make a little video and then, you don't need to do that. Just put a little sheet of paper if you want to do that. They have an option, but then they charge you for that. But they won't charge you for this monstrosity. They shouldn't even do it. It's not even, it doesn't even make any sense. And the thing is that put a sheet of paper on the top, maybe, look when you pack them, and then on the bottom, on the last copy. Because that's the only stuff that's going to really get scuffed. The comics going against each other, it has to be an unbelievable amount of crazy, like you need really humid conditions, and you need that thing bouncing around in the box. But if you get a box that's like 11 by 7 by 7, and you put that in a box that's 12 by 8 by 8, you could fit about 100 comics in that box, and then just wrap them, put a little bit from, it could be a double-walled box at that point, and then you just put them in and make sure that there's a buffer on the bottom, and then you just put them in a plastic, wrap them, stack them, do them in like turns of 10. Turns of 10 is like, 10 of them are like this, and then 10 of them are like that. So the spines alternate. But that didn't help at all. There's no way on earth. I've never gotten books like that from a printer. Never. There's no need for it. And especially if all the paper's going to get under the staples, you got to pull it like just right. And then tug the other staple just right. It's insane. Imagine if you ordered like 300 books and you got to do that to 300 books. It doesn't just tear off and then you're done. That's a pain in the ass enough to like tear off like 300 books, let's say. That'd be crazy enough. But then you got to like take the little paper out of the staple. That's crazy. Let's see. Cole King says it's a huge difference with when I was showing the text. Yeah, totally. Ellie says folding and collating machines. Yeah, exactly. This stuff is like, it's pricey. Like an industrial folding machine is like 15 grand. You can get a good one. I'm just going to get a good normal one for like 800. But if like you're doing high volume, and I mean high volume, like 1 million sheets of paper a month, then you need one of those. You just do. And you have the business to justify it. If you don't have the business to justify it, then you get something smaller. Wismore says, this is why my local brochure printer doesn't want to do comics. Yeah, I mean, you just need to understand them. It's not too crazy, not too hard. Let's see. Crashland says, high quality, great price, fast turnaround. You can only have 2, never all 3. So I've heard. Yeah, and that's unfortunately, there's way too much where people are sacrificing quality for speed. And now I can see if it's like, look, you want them fast? Okay. But just so you know, if you want it done like this, like let's say you want the book flat, you want this and that, that extra step, it's going to take us like another week, and it might cost like another 10-20 cents a book. I'd say take my money and I'll gladly wait 2 more weeks for the book to look great. Oh, good, you got me like something really fast that looks like crap. I'm thrilled. Like, just take your time. That's fine. But when it's presented like it can't be done, it's impossible, no one else would do it that way. Because if they had immediately offered to say, oh, we'll do a reprint for you and we'll make it right, I would have been like, all right. I probably never would have even considered going down this path. I would have just had them do the reprint. So, I mean, maybe, who knows? We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll end up thanking them. It's a blessing in disguise. You don't necessarily need a pressing machine. You can manually press it really easy. All you got to do is get 2 boards, and you can squash like a stack of 50 comics pretty easy. 25 to 50 pounds of weight. I say usually 25 pounds for every 50 comics, and you can just leave them overnight if you need to. But I didn't press these. Like, so when I did this, I didn't press it. I just folded it. But you can, if you're going to do that all in one shot, then you need some kind of, either like some kind of hydraulic press, or you need some kind of clamp that literally like really flattens the book. And it does it really fast when it happens, like poof, 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 like the books just go through when it's a commercial press. But I won't need a pressing machine. I didn't use a presser for this. I didn't use a presser for the other thing. Let's see. Jameson says Pete's going to end up making an at-home print shop after this video. Yeah, pretty much. And I'm looking forward to making some quick videos showing things getting made. That'll be fun. Let's see. Apex says bow stitch stapler. My stapler's 25 years old. It works great. Yeah. There's really expensive ones that are still manual. They're like $180 maybe. But the staples are thicker. gauge on them is thicker. So I wouldn't really recommend that for comics. You can staple, like with this little staple, the one that I use for like this guy, you could staple like 20 sheets of paper. You know, with newsprint, you can probably staple like 25. I wouldn't recommend, for what I'm doing, I wouldn't recommend sending me something more than like 48 to 56 pages, which would be like 6 to 8 sheets of paper. Only because I'm new with it right now. I don't really trust it. 24 and 32 seem to be most comics. Some people do 40. Very few do 48 to 56. Let's see. Rick Saylor saying 600 DPI all day. Dale says, question, would digital art drawn at 300 DPI look bad printed at 600 DPI? Well, that's the thing that's so strange. So normally, like when you upscale something that's already at its native resolution, so the native resolution would be like 300 DPI. And if I were to upscale it to 600 DPI, it really shouldn't make much of a difference. It'd make a very little difference, but it wouldn't be then natively at 600 DPI unless you've got like some kind of AI program. And even then it gets a little wonky sometime when they upscale with AI. But I found that even doing the experiment I was doing, taking a native file at 300 DPI and upscaling it to 600 did make a difference. Crazy enough, it did. So I'm not gonna, maybe that's not supposed to work that way. It wouldn't be the first time in my life when it's like, you're not supposed to do it that way. It's like, yeah, but it still works. So, native resolution at 600 would be the best, but upscaling it to 600 before printing it, that wouldn't be so bad either. Let's see. Randy says, I was about to say, what color? What about color? Yeah, I gave the ballpark quote on that. Wismore says, damn, I'm learning something new every stream. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Apex says, I love those ash cans. Yeah, it's and I'll have that as an option too. People could do ash cans. You could do like a 5x8 kind of size, and it would be cheaper, obviously. Like, it'd be pretty cheap. Like, I don't know, half the cost. You're looking at like $1 to $1.50 range a copy for ash cans. Rick Saylor, $20 bid. Says that came out great for what you were working with and the time invested. Yeah, man, you're telling me. I was shocked. I already know the printer can handle like a good paper stock for the cover, so I was like, I'm not going to bother wasting the ink printing that. That's why I just put like the poster on there, because it would just be the same thing. I'd just be printing the exact same thing. I'll have a cover printed for it when I show the actual thing, the proof of concept ash can that's printed really nice. But again, it'll only be on like the $50 printer I've got. It won't be on the pro level pigment ink looking really good level of stuff that I'm going to be able to do. But I think that'd be enough to really convince people that, like, wow, this is possible. Even this thing is like enough, I think, to convince some people, wow, that's possible. That's not so bad. But I want to make sure it looks nice. I want to make sure I print, a nice one in color, one in black and white. Let's see. Crash Landing says you're going to need a bigger printer. Jefferson says, sounds exciting, Pete. It's very exciting. I'm very excited by it. Cole says the quality of modern comics, especially indies, has been a huge problem for me over the years. It's so awesome to see you working so hard on this. As a reader and a creator, I appreciate it greatly. Yeah, Cole, same thing with me, man. It's been driving me nuts. Even books that get commercially printed now, because the paper stock ratio of the cover to the interior, which is very important. You want to have a cover that's like twice the thickness of the interior. And paper stock stuff like the pound and the GSM is probably the best way to do it. That's grams per square meter. GSM is going to be the most helpful way you can weigh out the paper stock, because there'll be like 60-pound text, 60-pound bond, 60-pound cover, and those are all different. And so you might think like, oh yeah, my 60-pound, I got a 60-pound bond, and you know I'll use this 80-pound cover, you know, or vice versa. You might think you've got a 60-pound cover, and that you should put 100-pound text as the cover, and it's not going to work out. So there's so many little intricacies to it. I'm printing on what ranges between 30-pound to 35-pound newsprint, and like a 70-pound to 80-pound gloss text cover. Like that's what we print on, and that's what I'm also printing on. So if you don't estimate those correctly, if you don't get a cover stock that's thicker, like there's like a nice ratio to it, then you're gonna get what happens with a lot of comics. You might even go to the shop and see comics that still bow out. I'm always shocked when I see that, like commercially printed comics that do that. That's insane. Like I won't name any publishers with it, but you guys, if you've been to the comic shop, if you've seen the new release wall, you'll see every now and then, like there's publishers where you look at that book and go, how is that possible? Like, where are you getting these printed? And then the cover stock is really thin sometimes compared to the interior. So it'll like curl up, or it'll do what I refer to as sleepy comics, and you'll see them and they start folding over because the interior is so heavy it starts collapsing the comic, and the cover isn't strong enough to support that thick interior paper stock. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know if like they've got people at the publishers and no one knows about paper anymore. No one cares. The printers aren't giving them a heads up that like, hey, you really shouldn't work with this. Like with me, I saw Pixel Trader talk about on Twitter, talk about how you know, he to get a proof because he got a book in and it was all pixelated, all horrible, and it was like a misprint or miscount on the last page, so there wasn't any art on there. It was like a blank page. I've had that happen too. I've had people with crowdfunding books, I've had those come in. And all I could think though, you know, I agree with him. I told him, I said, I agree, but I said also the printer should be giving you a heads up when there's a red flag that comes in. So if I'm getting files that come in and I'm noticing that the DPI, the resolution is really bad, and I'm noticing that, you know, they didn't give me the proper pages that they should have given me, I'm going to let them know. I'm going to say, just so you know, this isn't going to print right because it's too low resolution and you need to give me another page or whatever it may be. It's crazy that there's printers out there where they won't have your back. There's some that will. You know, I've been lucky enough that I've known a few that will have your back. And when something is completely like a red flag kicking in, not just like an artistic choice, like when you're a printer, you know what's a wrong file and what isn't, you know, and they'll give you a heads up. I've had printers that give a heads up about like, you know, 4-color black being used for text, and you don't want to do that. You know, you want to have just black for text, because if you have 4-color black on text, what happens is that they get hit with all 4 colors. And you're going to have reading issues because that text is going to not just print thicker. There's going to be little registration errors that are wrong. Whereas if it's just all black, even if there's a little registration error that's wrong, you could still read it perfectly fine because it's just black. It's just black ink. It's not CMYK being used in the text to make black. But there's some printers that don't say anything like that, and they just let the book go through, and it looks like crap. And then what? You know, like you gotta, if you at least have good customer service, you'll do a reprint, or you give them your money back or whatever. But sometimes they don't do that at all for either one, and they just go, well, you gave us those files, so you know, who cares? And then you obviously wouldn't use them again, I hope, but everyone loses in that scenario. So it's frustrating. This kind of stuff is obviously near and dear to me with the print and with the way the books look. And I know someone's probably thinking, like, you're getting all worked up over like newsprint printing. But just because it's on newsprint doesn't mean it can't look fantastic. The best comics, really, like, if you think about it, have been printed on newsprint. The most iconic comics of all time. The comics that have created pop culture were printed on newsprint. So it's not about necessarily what it's printed on. It doesn't need to be like the greatest, grandest paper, the most expensive paper stock or something like that. It just has to be great. It just has to be a good story with good art and printed in a way that you can enjoy it. We've been doing this kind of thing for so long that it shouldn't be difficult to attain this. These aren't secrets. Like, that's why I hate when I'm confronted with a printer that's telling me these things are impossible, and I'm just thinking, like, no, they're not impossible. If you don't want to do them, or you can't do them, or whatever it is, fine. If it's impossible for you, fine. Like, it's going to be impossible for me to make a perfect bound graphic novel because I won't have the setup for that. But creating a perfect bound graphic novel is not impossible. I wouldn't tell someone that that's not impossible. That you can't do that. Like, I wouldn't tell someone, no, you can't have a foil on a cover. I can't do that for you, but you can absolutely do that. You just have to go and find the printer that can. So it's really weird when I'm confronted with people who are in that industry and yet want to convince you and kind of almost use like a fear tactic on you, because what it is they don't want you to go anywhere else, and they want to take advantage of the fact that you probably don't know anything. They probably don't know that I've been making comics for 20 years. They obviously don't know that I worked at like print shops and I'm a degreed graphic designer and all this kind of stuff. Like, they wouldn't know any of that, so it's easy to kind of pull a fast one over me, because a lot of the time they're used to doing that with people and just saying that, that's how it is. And most people would be like, I guess that's how it is. And that's such a shame, because it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. Let's see here. Yes, there are no perfect print jobs. No, there will not be plates. It's digital printing. It's not offset printing. Offset printing I'm going to need a hell of a lot more than 15 grand. And I'm going to need a warehouse. Oblation says, I'm not at this stage yet, but damn, I am clueless on this. Thanks for the info. No problem. Let's see. Bretsky says, count me in too. Huey Ashcan and other 4-color treats. Oh, yeah. That'd be amazing. And even if people wanted to do like convention exclusives or a crowdfunding exclusive, so you could still do like a commercial printer, or work with someone else who can do, foil covers or this type of paper stock or whatever. But you could also have like this affordable option too, which would be, I think, pretty great for a lot of customers out there who are maybe like, man, like, I really want that comic, but $15, $20, $25 for like a 32 pager is a lot, but instead, if you priced it like $5, $6, $7 and it was on the newsprint stuff and it was a crowdfunder or a convention exclusive kind of a thing, I mean, that's pretty great. And that means that more people can get your book and enjoy it. The one downside is with the pigment ink, it's archival. That's not a downside. It's archival for like 200 to 400 years. So it's going to outlive us. Might even outlive the paper it's printed on. But you can't take silly putty to it. And it won't smear on your hands. So that's kind of good that it won't smear on your hands. And, I don't know how many people are taking silly putty to these comics anymore, but it's not coming off that page, So, even getting the covers and the pages and what you can have, your hands all over it, and you're not going to get ink all over the place. You're not going to smudge it. You're not going to smear it, and it's going to last. Even if you accidentally store the thing in the sun for like 2 weeks, it's still going to be fine. It's UV protected, it's waterproof, and it's archival. It's acid free too, so it's not going to destroy the paper or anything like that. So that's kind of good. You know, I don't even think. Well, I already know our newsprint books. You'll get the ink all over your damn fingers. You know, for some people that's part of the fun. For me, it's just an accepted kind of thing. It's just what comes with the territory. But it'd be nice to maybe not have that happen. You know, so that's pretty good. That's a selling point, I think, also. Let's see here. Kevin, they're talking about the radioactive paper, so it glows in the dark. Oh, man, right? Who knows? Let's see. Wismore says, how often is it came out on a Wednesday release? Probably like we do maybe 1 or 2 issues a year, you know, at this point. See, Glacier Mountain says, evening, Pete. Hey, everybody. What's up, Glacier Mountain? Cole says, have you seen any of Ghost Machine's books like Rook, Redcoat, Geiger? They're my favorite books quality-wise. They use cardstock for the covers and are almost never bowed. I've seen, like, digitally speaking, I've seen them. But I haven't seen them out in the wild. I haven't seen the books. I know a bunch of different companies that have used cardstock over the years for the covers. You know, it's good for them. You know, I dig it for what some people are doing. I prefer my comics to have more of like the flop and the fragility of them. I know some people don't like the fragility of the comic, and they want it to be a little sturdier. But that's the thing, is that, you know, there's so many ways to do this. So whatever works that's quality for you, you know, make it happen. Let's see. Metatron says, positive side, you could color a black and white issue with wet media. Yeah, totally. You know, it's gonna be even better for me because I'm gonna also be doing the coloring. So on King Cryptid number 10 and number 12, so I can even just use these printers for me to print that stuff out and have it on this archival pigment quality sheet that I can really, you know, go to town with. So I'm looking forward to that as well, just even as a creative person on my own books. But yeah. And yeah, I don't like the interior gloss. Like, you know, these are technically gloss, you know. They're not like a high gloss though. And even like the cover for King Cryptid is technically a gloss. It's gloss text, but it's not a high gloss, you know. So you have like this is the newsprint interior, you know. There's no real glare to that. That high gloss stuff, it's just garish. It's too much. But that's about it, you know. So yeah, that was pretty much the whole rundown of where I've been at, why I'm doing what I'm doing now, why I'm going down this path. It was not possible 5, 6, 7 years ago, and it wouldn't have been feasible. Like when we were with Diamond and I had to do like 20,000 print runs, that doesn't make sense to print things at home. It just doesn't. It's not going to happen. Like, you're not going to set up a system where you could print at home and get these things done in a timely manner, let alone a cost-effective manner. But now, especially where print costs are starting to rise and technology to print things like this is going up, it makes way more sense to start doing this. So I got to do some experimentation when we get that crowdfunder off the ground, and when I reach that goal, I'm going to take it to Fund My Comic first. Hopefully we get everything we need through Fund My Comic. Otherwise, I'll experiment with other crowdfunding sites. It won't be on the Alterna site. It'll just be through Fund My Comic. And yeah, as soon as what I like about Fund My Comic too is as you get pledges that come in, you get the deposits of the money within a couple of days. So, you know, if we reach like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, etc., as we reach money on the campaign, I can buy up equipment. So even if we don't reach the totality of the goal, I can still get stuff in as the campaign is running. And, you know, we'll play things out as they go out. So even if I don't get like the whole year's worth of ink or the whole year's worth of paper, and I'll have to just play that out or take it to Indiegogo or Kickstarter or whatever after. But I'm hoping we can raise the whole thing on Fund My Comic. $15K I think is pretty doable. The average print run would probably cost about like $300 to $400, depending if you get like 200 copies or 100 copies or whatever. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to be pre-selling vouchers that you can just use. You'll get a code, and you can then redeem that code for printing when the time comes, and then that'll be that. And then so if you pledge like 100 or 200 or 300, that's what you get taken off of your print total when that time comes. And I'll have the whole thing listed out in terms of what I'm going to print, the sizes, the specs, what you would have to do to format your files, all of that stuff. So it shouldn't be too complicated. But next thing I do, like I said, I got a couple more things to research, and then I have those test prints to make, like those official, like real good quality ash can sized books, a black and white and a color. And then that's it. I got to put together the campaign and hopefully launch sometime like next week or something. Maybe next Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, something like that. So very exciting. Very exciting. Let's see. Have I had any print job nightmares? Oh, brother, have I? That's like 10 streams for another day. Apex says, great printing education stream, Pete. I appreciate that you got something out of it. There's a lot of stuff sprinkled throughout, along with like my experiential, anecdotal stuff. So hopefully, if you stuck with me this long, thank you. And I hope you did get something out of it as well. And maybe even consider, backing the campaign, helping me to make this possible, and kind of like securing a spot for future printing on a print run that you have. I'm really hoping that this won't just benefit Alterna, obviously, or myself, but I'm really hoping that it benefits a lot of people out there, a lot of creators that are finding themselves in a similar situation to me, and a lot of people who would love to read these books, but maybe, the price range is too out of whack, or like what Cole was saying, where some people maybe they're just kind of disappointed because the print quality just isn't there. I would make sure that every book that we print is going to look as good and as perfect as it possibly could be. There's not going to be something that just goes through. Well, because you sent me the files that way. Every book is going to get a digital proof. People don't even have to accept it, that they're going to get one, just to let me know that everything looks good to them. And I'm going to make sure that everything prints fantastic. And hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps to grow readerships for people. Hopefully that helps to instill confidence in readers out there about people's books. And, we'll see what happens. I'm not going to say that this doesn't grow to be something bigger. I'm not going to say that, one day maybe I won't do perfect bound books. Maybe I will. I'm not going to say that one day maybe I won't have a print shop set up in a bigger space with really high-end equipment. But we got to start small. And we'll see where we get to with it. So hopefully it works out. All signs point to yes. And like I said, I'm looking forward to getting experiments done with the printing, seeing what's what. And hopefully that can be of help to a lot of people out there. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. Alpha Red. Yeah, like your book would look really cool getting that printed. Because, I mean, he takes out an ad here. James's book, he's got Alpha Red. And that looks pretty sweet in newsprint. I absolutely know I can replicate the quality of that or make it better. I could probably make it better because I can control the output. And that's the thing that I'm excited about. I can't control the output necessarily on a commercial press printer. I can send them the files and hope that it aligns with what they're doing. But I can't necessarily control the ink coverage or the way certain colors are printing or the way that the black is coming out or any of that, And I could do that and make a profile and adjust it and do everything really nice and have it look really good when I managed to have that kind of control on it. A little bit of a control freak, yeah, you could say I am. But it's all about the quality and the passion and the love of doing this kind of thing, making comics, getting some great stuff out to you guys, and continuing to do so. But thank you guys so much, everybody. Take it easy. I'll be back tomorrow night. That'll be a open mic Wednesday at 9:00 Eastern. Until then, everyone, take it easy, and I'll see you guys then. Have a wonderful night and an even better tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. All the best.